I love baking. It's one of my favorite hobbies. So, of course, I love baking Christmas goodies. Every year I get requests from family members to make specific things they like for our family get-togethers. I don't always make everything people ask for, but sometimes I get carried away and go a bit overboard. This year, my husband and I were hosting my family for Christmas Day, so I wanted to do a lot of baking on the days leading up to the gathering. I had Friday off of work, so I got a fair amount done, but not as much as I wanted to because our 3 kids were home from school and I kept getting distracted. So on Saturday, I told my husband to take the kids out of the house for a few hours so that I could focus on baking. He didn't want to do that because it was Christmas Eve and it was cold. We had a dangerous wind chill warning. I told him there was no way I could get all the baking done that I wanted to if he and the kids were in the house, so I needed him to take them out to do anything, I don't care what. He reluctantly agreed and I was able to get everything done that I wanted to. After I was done, I was exhausted and lay on the couch for a few minutes to rest before cleaning up the disaster in the kitchen. Unfortunately, I must have fallen asleep because I got woken up by my husband loudly doing the dishes. I went to the kitchen and told him I had planned on cleaning up, but I must have fallen asleep. I offered to take over for him, but he said he was almost done, so there was no point. I could tell he wasn't happy, since he was rage cleaning mixing bowls. He asked if I got all my baking done, and I told him that I did, and I was really happy with how everything turned out. He simply replied, "Good," without even taking his eyes off what he was doing. I asked him how the outing with the kids went, and he just said, "Fine." I knew something was up, so I asked him what was wrong. He said I kicked him out of the house so that I could do my hobby on one of the coldest days of the year, and then he came home to a huge mess in the kitchen and me napping on the couch. I told him I didn't plan on falling asleep and had every intention of cleaning up after myself, but he didn't seem to care. He told me that he needed to start dinner because the kids were hungry, so he would do that as soon as he finished cleaning up your huge mess. I told him I was sorry for falling asleep without cleaning and offered to cook dinner so he could relax, but he told me that he just wanted to be left alone for an hour while he cooked. This isn't the first time he's cleaned up after one of my baking marathons. When he cooks, he does the dishes as he goes, but I can't multitask like that, so I leave the dishes until I'm done. But sometimes I get distracted with kids or something else and unintentionally leave a mess in the kitchen. But usually I can get him to at least let me take over for him if he starts cleaning up after me. Am I the idiot? He really didn't want to do that because it was Christmas Eve and it was cold. This isn't about the dishes. This is about forcing your husband out of the house with zero warning on Christmas Eve and on a day with dangerous weather conditions. This isn't like a summer's day where he can just take them to the park. What's he supposed to do with them? Take them shopping? You are the idiot for kicking your husband and kids out of the house on Christmas Eve. And she says her family requests stuff, trying to pass this amount of baking off as an obligation. It's not. We're not stupid. You baked this much because you wanted to and decided your individual leisure activity was worth treating your family this poorly on Christmas Eve. And it's also in preparation for hosting her family on Christmas and making many different things they want. What's in this, in any of this, for her husband? From OP's story, he doesn't even like the baked results. If she doesn't change, I think she'll get divorce papers for Christmas next year. Even worse, she's putting her hobby before her kids' safety. The husband was worried about taking the kids out, so the fact that OP didn't care is heartbreaking. If OP couldn't possibly bake without the kids around, then she shouldn't have baked. You are a mom first. In your husband's shoes, I'd feel disrespected and hurt because you're basically showing him that your hubby and kids matter less to you than your hobby does. You need to change, and quickly. I, 32 male, was recently bestowed an inheritance of close to $50,000 by my late grandfather, 91 male. The reason I received the inheritance according to the will is that I was the only person in his life who would make a point of visiting him at his nursing home. His wife and friends were all long deceased and my parents lived in a different country than him. I would visit 1 or 2 times a month to check in on him, play cards, bring him on walks, etc. The main reason for these visits was that my grandfather was always there to listen and talk with me when I was at the lowest point in my life after getting home from deployment. We were both combat veterans, so he understood me on a level other people couldn't. Here's where the problem lies. My grandfather held a lot of extreme viewpoints that I disagreed with, specifically against the LGBTQ+ community. I resented my grandpa for these views and called him out whenever he would say something inappropriate. I was very close to ending the visits because of these views, but decided against it for reasons discussed prior. My sister, 28, is happily married to a woman, 31, and therefore obviously cut off contact with my grandfather. My sister and I have a very good relationship in general, but we would frequently fight over my continued relationship with my grandpa. So when he passed away and left me the money, I didn't think there would be any argument over it, as my sister wanted nothing to do with him, understandably so. However, when she found out about it, she demanded that she should receive half of the money. I was shocked and basically told her no way, as she was not the one who'd been visiting and providing care for him for the last 5 years. My sister was visibly angry, and we haven't been on speaking terms since. This has left me wondering whether I am the idiot, as my sister was a victim of my grandfather's bigotry. However, I don't think half the money is a reasonable request. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, tale as old as time. There is no family bond stronger than a need for inheritance. She decided to go no contact with him, justified because of his views, and going no contact means you want nothing to do with that person. It's simple as that. You don't get to want their money or get their money after they die. She didn't want anything to do with Grandpa, and that's what she'll receive. Nothing. Everyone's the idiot here. On the one hand, it was your grandfather's decision and you can honour it. On the other hand, if you uphold his cutting off your sister, you're upholding the same bigotry he supported that drove her away. Self-respect says that's inappropriate, as you say. Honestly, I would share at least a fifth or a quarter with her. You'll probably lose a relationship with your sister if you share nothing. Is that a consequence you're okay with? Yes, you are the idiot. Your grandpa was an idiot jerk who expected to have the younger generation kiss up when he insulted and disrespected her. You were the golden grandchild and now reap the benefits from the fact that she was a target rather than because of your own action. You can't control that any more than you can change the type of person your grandfather was. But keeping the inheritance will mean that you will always appear to have supported your grandfather's awful views, especially when it was beneficial to you. The sister is the one who cut all ties. Why does she think she can have half? If OP gives half, she may want more. Will she suddenly love Grandpa or appreciate him? No, she just wants easy money. OP isn't responsible for any of the grandfather's viewpoints, nor for compensating anyone on his behalf. Stop trying to push this nonsense. My brother is 13 years older than me, and I've known my whole life, all 19 years, that he would have preferred to remain an only child. We're not close. He has never had time for me, never wanted me in his life or to be in mine. When he moved out, he stayed distant from me. He'd speak to our parents and visit them, but it was like I wasn't there. Over the years, I got used to it. When I was 12, our parents asked him if he would let me stay for a weekend because they were attending an adult-only wedding. He said no, but he didn't just say no, he was clear that he would never want that kind of contact with me. They argued back then over it, not sure how bad it got, but they never asked again and nothing changed between him and me. It always stood out to me that he was almost disgusted to be asked and by the idea that he would need to spend some time with me. He never showed up to my birthdays or got me anything for Christmas or my birthday. My parents were bothered, but always told me once we were both grown, our relationship would be more equal and could grow. They wanted to believe that more than they actually did. My brother has been with the same woman for like 8 years. I've met her a grand total of 2 times. Now they're engaged and everyone is all excited. His fiancée came over while I was at my parents' house for Christmas and asked me to be her bridesmaid. She brought up how they needed to include me since all of her siblings were bridesmaids and groomsmen. I asked if that was the only reason and she went silent because, she was asking a stranger for the sake of appearances. So I told her it was nice to offer and all, but I couldn't accept and wouldn't attend the wedding. She freaked out, went crazy about how my lack of attendance will overshadow the day, and sometimes you go for family, even if you're not close to or know the family because family is important. I had to leave my parents' house because they were also unhappy when they heard I was planning on not going. They told me he was my brother and I should be at his wedding even if I was not a bridesmaid. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Weddings are for family and friends. If it's such an issue for your brother's fiancée, and if she keeps freaking out at you and everyone about it, tell her that. And your brother has never seen you as, let alone treated you as, family or friend. It should not be on you, ever, to be the one to have to play nice. He never made an effort. And if you don't care to do so, you are under no obligation to try. He gets to reap what he sowed. I'm sorry your parents are so deep in denial over his idiot behavior. You very literally owe him nothing. Although you're giving him the gift he always wanted, acting like he doesn't have a sister, it's probably worth it. Every other very good reason aside, there's not a chance your absence would overshadow the day. If this is how he treats you and talks about you in your presence, I'd be willing to bet that plenty of the attendees don't even know he has a sister. I would have asked the fiancée whether she had cleared this idea with her future husband, because it seems to be clear that he would probably be against inviting OP at all, not just as a bridesmaid. Instead, she seemingly went behind her future husband's back, trying to poke her nose into another family's relationship for the sake of keeping appearances. OP, you have every right to turn down the invitation. My husband's daughter, 21, moved in with us after she turned 18 because she hated her mom's boyfriend. I actually had a friend paying to rent a room at the time, which I asked to move out so she could have it. Even didn't charge him for the last month to help him find a place. It has honestly sucked. She was entitled, lazy, and refused to clean up after herself. She would complain about dinner, get up and go back to her room, leave her plate at the table, clean her room, and leave a sink load of mouldy dishes. Never once help clean any common areas, pays no rent. One time I woke up to her gone and the guy she'd been dating for 3 months was watching TV in my living room while she was at work. I could go on for days. She would only help if something turned into a fight, either with her and I or her dad. 5 weeks ago we got into it again and she packed her stuff and left. Found out later that she moved in with her 40-year-old male co-worker. Now she and her co-worker are not getting along, it honestly sounds like similar problems, and she wants to come back. I'll be honest, I already cleaned out her room and made it into a game room, office, workout room. Life had been 1,000 times better with her not there. She comes over and visits regularly. That started not long after she left. She got nicer and told us how mean her roommate was. This guy has a married couple and child living with him too, and her dad still takes her out for dinner and things like that. So it's not a no-contact situation. Her mom is currently couch surfing, so she can't move back in with her. I don't want her to move back in here. My husband wants us to let her come back, but give her a timeline to find another place. I don't want to because 1. I'm enjoying the peace and having our own space. 2. I don't trust her to stick to an agreement. 3. She had bad-mouthed a ton of people and she and her friends called me step monster, so I'm not inclined to help her. Edit, to be clear, she is safe where she is, she's just not getting along with them, unhappy and broke. The house we currently live in was mine pre-marriage and was part of a prenuptial agreement. Of course I consider his feelings, but at the end of the day, it is my call. Not the idiot. This girl sounds like a nightmare. She's 21, time to grow up. She didn't run away, she chose to leave because it was easier at the time than respecting you or your property. It would be naive to think it will magically be different next time just because she's desperate. Obviously, your husband gets a say in this too, but your concerns are valid. She has a job. She can feed herself and find another shared housing situation. If you and your husband agree, you could pay a set monthly amount toward one of your stepdaughter's bills. For instance, pay $100 a month to her landlord to help her with rent costs. Disagree, but family, people who think family can do whatever and still be invited back, are doormats. The woman you described is not recognizing the sacrifice it takes to let someone else into your home. Instead, she feels she's entitled to it. She's not going to change or learn by being let back in. It's a terrible shame and I wish her growth in her life, but that growth won't happen if she doesn't experience consequences for her actions. She has a lot of work to do before she can earn the opportunity to live under your roof again or receive your help. My husband has a niece named Mara, teen. Mara is very talented and she knows it, but she's extremely smug about it. My husband's family can't shut up about it. Every time we're with his family, they keep talking about her. Did you hear Mara has started playing the violin as well? Or Mara learned another language. She can speak 4 languages now. Isn't that awesome? Like, okay, I get it, she is talented, but we're hearing about it all the time and it's exhausting. On Christmas Day, everyone was talking, and of course, everyone started to talk about Mara's baseball team winning a game and how amazing Mara was in that game. I thought it was unfair to the rest of the kids, so I changed the conversation. I told them that my daughter had shown a lot of interest in chemistry lately, and her teacher thinks she's really good at it. They all said some things like, well done, really good, and then went back to Mara. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I told them they need to stop talking about Mara for a second and think about the other kids as well, and Mara is not as amazing and special as they think. My sister-in-law called me an idiot, and my husband thinks I shouldn't have said that, but I couldn't just sit there and say nothing. Am I the idiot? Oh geez, I'm feeling some actual second-hand embarrassment for you. You are the idiot for saying it in front of Mara. There was a way to discreetly mention this to other family members without putting Mara down. Pulling them aside and saying that while you're very proud and admiring of Mara's success and want to continue celebrating her achievements, it would be nice to prop up the other kids' smaller achievements too, so they don't feel less than her. I have a feeling other kids means her kids. This has nothing to do with fairness, it's about her own ego and internal competitiveness. Poor Mara is just out there being fabulous, and probably just generally more interesting because it sounds like she's older. Hope he outwardly stated her jealousy of an actual child, all while insulting her to her face. Real gross coming from an adult in the room. Everyone's the idiot here. Sorry, as one of the female cousins that got consistently graded against Amara, I no longer talk to too many of my family members, including her. As kids, we got along okay, but she eventually became exactly like my harpy aunts. Guess what? We both got married, had kids, and have lived relatively similar trajectories. In the end, it wasn't that she was awesome at things, it was that everyone else's special things were ignored.